Okay, so what have we decided we're to do? Oh, why is it going? Hang on.
There we go. Okay.
What did we want to do with this?
Okay. Hi, you're live.
Oh, hello.
We're trying to decide what to do with Lisa's amazing new book that we're going to be talking about. Is that good, Lisa? Are you, do you feel like you're in a good position?
So, yes,
okay.
Yes.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. Excited to be here with Karen and everybody out there. Welcome.
Yeah, and right now, the wonderful thing about this, Lisa, is it's recording. So sometimes people join us live, but we do get quite a few viewers afterwards. And I'm so excited to be here today with all of you, interviewing Lisa Harris with Enduring Fitness for You. Maybe some of you were able to go on her website and check out what she is doing, all kinds of great things.
Great.
So Lisa, as we're getting started here, share with us a little bit about your background.
Certainly.
How did you end up here?
I am a registered dietitian from the 1970s. I've been in that line of business for a long time. And then about 10 years ago, I was visiting my mom. She was living in Colorado in an independent care facility. And her kidneys were starting to fail. Wow. So we needed to bring the family in and do an intervention because she did not want to go into dialysis. I spent about a week with her, and I stayed actually with her in an independent care facility. And I went with her to all of her meals. Wow. And she ate with the same three ladies every meal. Okay. And what I discovered was they had two things they always talked about. What was for lunch, what was for dinner, what were the meals? Because it's very important when you're in one of those places. And the other thing was their fears. And the two things that scared them the most living there were getting pneumonia and falling. Because they all knew if either of those happened, they had to leave their friends, leave their home, and for some people, might never come back. Yeah. So when I came back home, I had an aha moment, which was that everybody, no matter your age, wants to live out the life that they have with strength and independence. Yes. Yeah. And so at that point, I decided to go back to school. I was 58, 59 at the time. Wow, and that's amazing. Went back to UC San Diego, their extension program, and got a certificate in, they call it exercise science. And then I retired. I was working as a school food service director. I retired from that, sat for an exam to become a certified personal trainer, and then I started working in a gym for about a year and a half. And then I decided to open my own business, which had been my goal all along. So my current business is Enduring Fitness for You. Awesome. Wow. So it sounded like that journey really started off because something personally really resonated. Right, exactly. With your mom. Yeah. And although she lived in Colorado most of the remainder of her life, so I wasn't able to help her, but I really, my goal is to help everybody live out their life with, like as I said, as much strength and independence as long as possible. Right, right. Because everybody wants to live out their life in their home. Yes, they do. And a great percentage of us are not going to be able to do that. Right, right, yeah. And I mean, it's interesting, not to divert from our notes here, but what I really realized living in a community like Temecula, like we all moved out here. We were young families looking for affordable housing, and so were all these houses being built, and now there's so much building in the memory care space and the retirement or the assisted living space, and there is sort of this progression. Exactly. Yeah. So. And with all of the memory care facilities, I had the privilege of going on a tour of one of them, and what really struck me was that they really try, in the portion where they are caring for people with memory problems, Alzheimer's, dementia, they really try to help people reconnect with their past because those memories are there. So they have pictures of weddings from the 40s and uniforms from the World War II and whatnot. But every door is locked. And so the access is really limited. So there's always, for me, it was always that reminder that the ravages of the mind are taking place. Yes. And we're trying now to take care of people as best we can. Yeah. Once they get there. Yeah. And it's neat to see there's a lot of thought and compassion behind that. And I'm sure that's going to be a huge area just because that population's going to increase. So forgive that diversion, but my brain kind of diverts sometimes beyond the notes that we have here.
But so those of you that are joining us, and welcome Renee, and I think I saw Suzanne on there and I saw Isabel on there. Thank you for supporting us and listening in. But for those of you that do listen and have listened to Beauty Matters for a while, you know that really the purpose of this particular community that I'm working on developing with such amazing people like Lisa is just a place to provide information, inspiration, encouragement for all of us so that we can live really beautiful, healthy lives. And again, beauty so much is such a, of course, on the outside, so many people think of beauty as external, but really it is internal. And I'm sure so many of us have visited old people, grandparents, and they just radiate that kind of beauty. So share with us a little bit about how the kind of mission of Beauty Matters aligns with Enduring Fitness for you.
Absolutely. You mentioned the inner beauty. Mm-hmm. A lot of, I think, what people radiate is self-confidence.
Yes.
And we have a term in the fitness industry, which is called self-efficacy.
Oh,
so
I love that.
If we can get people to make a small goal and accomplish it, a goal might be to walk 200 steps more today than you did yesterday, or a goal might be I'm going to drink 4 glasses of water today. So the idea is if you could get people to do something that's outside their comfort zone, that's heading towards better fitness, then it builds up their self-confidence.
Yes.
And that, I think, radiates through in people because they are just more excited about life because they can do things.
Right.
In addition, we know that exercise actually helps. There are parts of our genetic structure, the telomeres, that they shorten as we get older. And there's some research now that's showing that exercise actually helps at that level to lengthen those, to actually help keep us younger longer. So it helps with our brains and aging and diabetes and all kinds of chronic diseases. So and then if you eat enough carrots, you're going to eventually have that radiate out your skin.
Beautiful skin.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
And there really is some truth to that.
Well, and as you were talking about that word self-efficacy, I was just thinking about one thing that I've recently is actually a lecture that I listened to, that the body from the cellular level really all the way up to the conscious level, we're either in a growth or a self-protection kind of state.
Right.
And I would imagine that self-efficacy, did I say that correctly, really keeps you in that growth phase because you're stretching beyond your comfort zone rather than just deferring to the status quo.
Right. So you're stretching, and then you're able to see that you can make that stretch.
Yes.
And that's, I think, where exercise is a huge, huge helper, because people in their 60s and 70s don't think about picking up a set of weights, which is one of the most important things they can do. But if you can get them started with 2 pounds, and you can get them started just getting themselves off of a chair frequently without using their hands to keep their lower body strong, and they go, wow, that wasn't so hard, and increase that a little bit more and more as they go along. And people have just made such incredible increases in their fitness just from those simple things.
That is so wonderful. So talk to us, and we already are moving in this direction, but talk to us a little bit about the community that you serve, and you shared a little bit about what triggered this passion. It was very personal, but tell us kind of what you see and why this particular community.
Okay, all right. The people that I enjoy working with the most are the folks in their 70s and 80s. That's because first of all, they really appreciate the help.
Yeah.
They're from that generation that
they're still nice.
They're very polite, and you can see the progress, and they're very generous with their feedback back. The downside of working with that population is that sometimes their fitness level has already declined quite a bit, so it's hard to get them much stronger. So I do work a lot with people that are older, as we would call them, older adults. And then where I see my services being very useful is for people in their 60s, because, and I speak from this personally, I'm just turned 64.
You look amazing.
Thank you. I find, and from people I've worked with, that once you hit your 60s, you really start noticing the waist is getting bigger. You start noticing that it's more difficult to get in and out of a car, more difficult to get on the floor and play with your grandchildren, run around and jump and dance with them and all those things. And that's when the chronic diseases start getting us worried. People start having their blood sugar problems, or their parents maybe are developing Alzheimer's and they're starting to worry about that. So that, and those people, I think if I can get them to where they're just starting to worry about things and they realize the benefit of eating right and exercise, that we can really stop that decline from going too far. And really have that independent, strong life.
That's really insightful, because I think there is this natural, like, oh, that's never going to be me.
Right.
I know I'm in my mid to late 50s, and it's like,
oh
yeah, I feel great. That's never going to be me. And then all of a sudden those things start happening and you're kind of staring them in the face. So, I mean, it really sounds like that 60s is that perfect sweet spot for you, where you can still really make some, instead of really fighting the clock, you can make some significant life changes to where you can kind of, not slow that down, but maybe even be preventative.
Right. And I've had several clients that have said, how did I get here? They're maybe 80 and they're and their goal, I mean, I had one lady and her goal was not to be in a wheelchair. And she was trying to put that off. She had Parkinson's and she was trying to put that off. I had another lady, her goal was just to be able to fasten her own bra. I mean, simple things like that, where you've got the flexibility and still the strength of all those small muscles and everything. So it's those everyday activities of life that we so take for granted.
Yes.
And I had a hip replaced a couple months ago, and boy, I appreciate all those small things. Just getting out of bed was difficult for a while, but we can keep that muscle strength going. It's studies have shown well into your 80s that you can build muscle size and muscle strength.
Yes.
So you just, it has to be a purposeful activity that we do.
Intentional,
right.
Yeah. I know, Lisa sent you that study. In fact, I could post it below if anyone's interested, about the 105-year-old Frenchman.
Oh, right.
Who was riding his bike all the time. Right. And there was this idea that once you hit a certain age, your VO2 max, which is sort of your oxygen carrying capacity, can't be increased. And a measure of fitness. And a measure of fitness.
Right, definitely.
And so this man was just very casually riding his bike, and they challenged him over the next year to actually just up it a little bit. And they actually saw significant physiological changes, even at 105. Those French, I tell you, right? But how inspiring was that. So you are obviously all about active aging. So what does that look like, and what is that possible?
Certainly. So active aging, I would define that as whatever a person wants. Most people want to live a long life, but we want quality.
Yes.
And that's where the problem comes in, because either you don't have enough money for the quality of life that you want, and I know you probably have interviewed other gals that are in that arena, or your fitness level just comes down to where you're not able to have that life. So an active aging or active life as we go into those later years would be to, and we're not talking about looking like a model or a bodybuilder. Right. We're talking about simply being able to carry on those everyday activities that keep you independent. To be able to go shopping and push the car, to load and unload the car, to be able to get in and out of the shower, or off the potty by yourself, in and out of bed, to dress yourself, to be able to cut your meat. Towards the end of my mom's life, she passed away about 1.5 years ago. She had surgery on both of her shoulders, replacement, and her mobility was so bad that she couldn't even cut her meat by herself. And so it's being able to live that life that allows you to continue living, aging the way you want to, so that you can continue traveling, so you can jump on your bike like you do, and go for a bike ride, walk on the beach, along with the simple everyday things.
That's what I think the beauty is, sometimes it is really those simple things, don't you think? Like if you can just, probably one of the best things you could do is just move, walk.
Exactly.
I mean, just, and maybe even in that area, stretch it a little bit, right?
Right. And there have been a couple of studies about movement and just getting up and decreasing sedentary behavior. So sedentary behavior is defined as sitting for at least 3 hours at a stretch. And one study that was done a few years ago said that it was more harmful to your health than cigarette smoking.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And that was, they looked at the amount of sitting time after age 25 and compared that to smoking a cigarette. And the increased sitting time actually decreased your numbers of life more than smoking did.
Wow.
And there was another study that was done a couple years ago, and the conclusion of that was that sitting too long is more detrimental than being 100 pounds overweight.
Wow.
And 90+% of the population of the world is sitting too much.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, look at our jobs, right? Kind of sitting in traffic, in the car.
Yes, yes. Yeah. So there's another place where you have to be very intentional with your movement, but it's so critical.
Yeah.
There's also a new term called the couch potatoes. Have you heard of that one?
Well, I know what a couch potato
is. Or active couch potatoes.
Yeah.
So these are people who sit a lot of their day, but they also have that hour or half an hour of exercise, because the recommendation for Americans is 150 minutes of cardiovascular exercise per week. So that the easy way to break that down is 30 minutes, 5 days a week.
Sure.
Well, so what they're finding is you can do that, but your fitness level can still be low if you sit the rest of the day.
Wow.
So now they're saying you need to get up every 30 to 60 minutes,
right,
and move the large
muscles. Set your phone, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what happens is when we sit too long, we tell our body, get ready for death, prepare to die, shut down, we're just sitting here. And if you stand, within 90 seconds, if you start walking around,
move into growth, right?
We start
growth phase.
Growth, there you go. And we start pushing blood fats and blood sugar out of the bloodstream into the cells, the skeletals, the moving cells, to be used for energy. So it's very beneficial. The American Diabetes Association is now recommending, as part of its recommendations for people with diabetes, to break up sedentary activity every 30 minutes.
Wow.
It's the first official organization I've seen that's come out with a recommendation, but I know we'll see more recommendations like that.
And Fitbits, you can definitely do that too, to set them. So let's go ahead and talk about, because you mentioned diabetes, and I know that is a huge issue. I mean, I've looked at those statistics, and they are
scary.
Frightening.
Very frightening.
Yeah,
very frightening.
Absolutely frightening. So talk to us a little bit about diabetes and some of the other challenges that you're really kind of seeing in this aging population.
Right. Diabetes is huge. In fact, when I was a dietetic intern back in the 70s, I was doing my program in a hospital in Ohio, and we were able to sit in on some of the lectures that the physicians were doing. There was an endocrinologist who had written a book called Diobesity. And her prediction was within 30 years, so that's coming up. We're getting there. That there were so many people would have diabetes that the healthcare system would be crippled. Wow. So right now we have over 100 million people in this country that either have diabetes or pre-diabetes.
Say that again.
Over 100 million.
Wow.
And the vast majority, 80+ million, have pre-diabetes. So with prediabetes, the blood sugar levels are abnormally high, but not high enough to be classified as diabetes. Most people don't know they have prediabetes, and unless they do something about that, the diabetes, then the blood sugar levels, within 3 to 5 years, they'll go into full-blown diabetes.
Wow.
Now, prediabetes is almost 100% reversible.
Wow.
Nobody would say it's 100%, but for 99% of the people with lifestyle changes, and there have been lots of big studies across the country, exercise and diet, those numbers can be reversed. Diabetes itself, you can get those blood sugar numbers back down, but there are some experts that believe that the damage to the small blood vessels in your nerves and eyes are not reversed.
Yes.
And so I do work a lot with people that have diabetes. Another issue I'm seeing is blood pressure, high blood pressure, people recovering from open heart surgeries, just getting their strength back. Arthritis, we're seeing a lot of arthritis and osteoporosis. And my whole philosophy on treating people with arthritis has really been, I don't want to say changed, but it's really been more personal to me because I have arthritis. I have a family history of arthritis. I had hip arthritis, bone on bone, and like a lot of my clients, it got so bad that I didn't want to move anymore. I mean, I would literally ask my husband to go get me something in the kitchen. I just didn't want to get up. And the problem there is that because of the pain, you don't want to move. But if you don't move, then your health is declining. So
it's a spiral.
It's a spiral down. Right? It's going down. So I did for myself what I do for my clients, and it's always easier for your clients, right? Not shine that mirror in yourself. Find an activity that doesn't hurt. So I swam for a while.
That's a great idea.
And we have community pools. They stopped heating the one that I was using. And then I was going to the gym and using a stationary bike because that wasn't bothering my hip. And then I realized that I have a really expensive road bike that's been gathering dust for years in my garage. So we went to the bike store, bought a stand for it. And now my stationary bike is my road bike.
And you're going to go biking, real biking with me someday, right?
Someday, but right now it's literally my very expensive lightweight bike is a very expensive stationary bike right outside my patio doors. And every day I go out there at around 6:30 and I get at least 15 minutes on. And even before my surgery, I was able to do that. So the key is to find an activity that doesn't cause pain that you can still do, because you just absolutely have to keep moving, and then strength training around the joints where the arthritis is. And then a lot of my clients have osteoporosis, which is not the joints but the bones, and so there's certain exercises you can't do, bending, twisting. It has a lot to do with diet and again, strength training.
Yeah, wonderful. So it sounds like you really do, I'm sure with your clients, you do a full-on assessment and then really help them to figure out, based on what you like, what you're comfortable with, where your pain is, let's figure out the best way to get you into a program that's going to really maximize all of those things.
And I go to my clients' homes. So the beauty is that we can look around their house, see where they can, what they can do. If there's nothing else other than walking and setting a timer on the microwave, that works. Buy a pedometer. We at least a couple times while I work with them, sit at their kitchen table, look in their refrigerator, look in their cupboards. Sometimes I will give out a list of foods to eat or a weight loss plan or something, but most of the time we diverge from that so much because one size does not fit all.
Right.
It absolutely does not. And like you said, it has to be something that somebody likes, that works for them, that they can do forever. Because when it comes to diet and exercise, it has to be a lifelong.
Or you're just not going to do it. I mean, that's the reality of it.
Exactly.
That totally makes sense. So speaking of that, a lot of people kind of in that 60s, 70s, 80s do end up, for whatever reason, being alone and single.
Right.
So what do you think about like some of those pre-prepped food services, organic food? Is that a good solution, do you think, for people?
You know, this one my clients taught me. I have clients that go to any kind of a grocery store. It could be a Roots, it could be a Vaughn's, and where they have either a salad bar or a section where they have the vegetables already prepared, and you can just buy them raw and take them home. My initial thought is it's expensive, don't do it. But what my clients taught me was, if you're living by yourself and you buy a package of...
It's not that expensive, right?
Well, because you're going to throw it away. If you buy a whole zucchini, you don't use it all or whatever. So for those prepared foods, I think there's a huge benefit to that. For the meal services that come to your home, I think those are great. They can be inexpensive because if you buy a dinner that you can use over 2 or 3 days. And I think people have to do some research on the best services, because there are a lot of them. There are individuals that do specific types of meals for people also. And definitely, again, it's what works. What my buying habits and cooking habits, which is for 2 or 3 most of the time, is going to be different from somebody that has very limited mobility. And I mean, I have a lady who we figured out a good way for her to scramble eggs in the microwave because she couldn't stand long enough to do it over a stove like most of us would do.
Yeah.
And scrambled eggs microwaved are pretty good.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they really are.
Just don't stick the whole egg in because it'll explode.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Oh, that's really interesting. Is there, just really quickly wrapping up the kind of the diet section as a dietitian, overall wellness, is there a certain diet that you recommend?
Right. Yeah, good question. Generally speaking, I encourage my clients to eat a plant-based diet.
Okay.
So I'm not saying go vegetarian, go vegan. I'm just saying replace those meat entrees as much as you can with vegetable dishes.
Okay.
And those vegetable dishes could be in the form of beans, dried beans and peas. They could be eggs. They could be yogurt. And if you want to try to go more vegan, you can get soybean based. There's soy yogurt, which is very tasty. That's what I use. And try to cut down on meats as much as possible.
Okay.
There's so much research about the negative aspects of meats.
Wow. Even your lean, like your lean proteins.
Even the lean proteins. Wow. So plant-based, people that live the longest in the country, in the world,
plant-based
are plant-based, eat a plant-based diet. And most of the people go out in their backyards and do their own cooking. And if you can do that, great. If you can't, at least try to substitute as many meals as you can, get rid of those meats.
Now, do you have a hard time implementing that? Because I would think that this generation that is now, 60, 70, 80, they definitely grew up sort of in that meat and potatoes, quick meal generation, right? So are they receptive? They are receptive, but it is difficult. So what I usually do, especially with men, is we just start with portion control. So instead of eating a 6-ounce steak at dinner, we'll cut it down. We'll just start with cutting it back and then making the meat more of a side dish and not the entree. Okay. And so that's the way I get that in. And then also I recommend that they explore ethnic dishes because Mexican, Italian, Asian, they don't use a lot of meat, and it's more of just a little bit. And it's the flavor profile that's so wonderful, right? With the seasonings and the spices, where you can really elevate vegetables to meat quality or meat palate, right? Can. Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Okay, so we talked about diabetes. I did want you to be able to mention that you're going to be doing a online diabetes workshop. You want to share a little bit about that? Yes, so I will be doing tomorrow, Wednesday, the 21st, a free webinar. Okay. And it is called Stop Prediabetes. Okay. And it's at, tomorrow, it's at 3 o'clock. And I will be recording it. Okay. The easiest way to tune in if you're interested is to get your cell phone out and just, you want to text to the number 72,000, text the word endure, E-N-D-U-R-E. And we can post that down below too. Okay. Yeah, and then you can, it'll register you, and then I'll make sure you get the link and a reminder email tomorrow. Okay. And as I said, if you cannot attend, I can send out that recording. Okay. And for those of you that maybe aren't familiar with webinars, Lisa sends you a link on your computer. You click on that. There may be some kind of app format depending on what you use. They're getting easier and easier. Generally, you just have to click. It'll tell you if you don't have the app downloaded, you can download it. And then the cool thing is you can actually see, just like you're seeing us, you'll be able to see Lisa and her presentation. Right. Although I just showed the PowerPoint. Just show the slides. Okay, so you'll see the slides. Yeah. And you'll hear me though. And there also is, if you can't figure out the computer, there's a phone number. So you can literally just call and then you put a code in and you can listen to the whole thing. Wonderful. Yes, and that'll be really, really useful because the wonderful thing about being pre-diabetic or, we used to call it adult onset diabetes, type 2 diabetes, it is reversible. You can be proactive. It's not like just the sentence that you have to live with that. The pre-diabetes is very reversible. Yeah. So, talk about your book. All right. Thank you. This is my third child right here. This is a book I've written, Building Your Enduring Fitness, and it is a compilation of, I'm going to put it down now. Yeah, go ahead. This is a compilation of strategies for people to help. So it's food, nutrition, and exercise, movement, fitness strategies to help people live
strong and independent as long as possible, because that's what I want people to be able to do. I have been writing blogs for the last 3 or 4 years. I have 180 blogs I've written, various magazine articles, and I took all of those important topics and distilled them down into the chapters for the book. And it is coming today. I have a palette of books coming sometime before 5 o'clock today, and I will be starting to get those out to people.
Wonderful. Yes. And so what if anybody wants one?
Right.
How do they get it?
So the easiest way to go to get this, and I know we can post this, you can go to buildingyourenduringfitness.com. And you can buy it right online.
Oh, awesome.
In addition, on April 5th, we're holding a book signing party in Murrieta, if you are local, 6 o'clock at 8-Bit Brewing Company. And we will have food. I will be signing books. We will have some sponsors in the back. And hopefully I'm trying to get a nonprofit there.
Oh, wonderful.
And I will be standing up and talking about the book, and I think it'll be an evening of a lot of fun.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. You can come and ask Lisa specific questions.
Right.
You can get your book personally signed.
Yes.
Yeah, but definitely, and we'll be posting that down below as well if you want to join us. So if anybody's interested in working specifically with you, Lisa, tell us a little bit about those services as we're wrapping up here.
The main service I have is an in-home program, 3 to 6 months for people. Okay. And I would be, again, coming into your home twice a week. We start with a fitness assessment. Then we design a fitness program, which is revolving around weightlifting with dumbbells and strength, the bands, fitness bands, resistance bands. And then about the second or third week, we start talking about food because especially if somebody is wanting to lose weight, it's about 75% what goes into your mouth.
Right.
And in the program, I would come in twice a week for an hour, and I reassess at the halfway point and reassess at the end. I have a lot of value added in that I have a lot of handouts I give my clients. We actually have a computer analysis where I'll analyze their diets and we can track those.
Oh, wow. That's
we
awesome.
Always have some kind of a fitness tracker that they're using, whether it's a simple pedometer, an Apple Watch, a Fitbit or something along those lines, because that's very important. Getting up and getting that movement. It's not just the 2 hours I spend with them during the week.
It's the work they have to do when you're not there.
Right. Yeah. And I will be designing some online programs. I just don't have them yet. That'll be probably a subscription service.
Yeah.
And if somebody is interested in finding out more about that, you can go onto my website, which is enduringfitnessforyou.com, and they're sign up for my free ebook. And then they can get on my email,
on your mailer, so they'll be up on anything,
anything that comes along.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, great. Yeah, so make sure I did post that kind of on the commercial for today, and we will repost Lisa's website as well. And she's not going to send you all kinds of junk mail. I know her, and her content is really remarkable. So, alrighty. So, in wrapping things up here, can you share any particular book that was really influential, or any resource that you think our viewers might find useful? Yes.
There are a couple of books. One of them is a book called Spark. I should have brought them with me, but it is about how exercise affects your brain, and it's by Dr. John Ratey, Ratey. And again, I'll give you these references. Okay. And the other one is called Stand Up. And it's all about what sitting, the negative aspects of sitting. And the doctor that wrote that is one of the leading researchers in movement and weight control. Awesome. And he has a lot of good research available. The National Council on Aging has a lot of good resources. I'll just give you a few online resources
that'd be
for
great.
People.
Yeah, and really quickly, we didn't talk specifically about obesity and weight loss. That is something also that you definitely take into account when you're working.
Definitely.
Obviously, with your clients,
right? Yeah. And the main reason for that is that weight loss is indicated in most chronic diseases. We know that if you're overweight or obese, you have a greater chance of having everything from cancer, breast cancer, to several kinds of cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, even Alzheimer's. They're finding on people with Alzheimer's, once they definitively diagnose through an autopsy, looking back at their history, a lot of people are overweight. And so they're trying to figure out exactly what that connection is. And it probably is going to be a combination of things. One of the reasons is it is involved with all those other chronic diseases.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it is something we look at. And the research now is showing that if a person who's overweight can drop 5 to 7% of that weight, there are tremendous health benefits they start to develop or start to garner. So we don't have to think about losing 50 pounds. I mean, if you weigh 200 pounds, that's
daunting. Yeah.
That's daunting. But if you think 5%, that's 10 pounds.
Yes.
And then if you can keep that weight loss off for 6 months and then go down another 5 to 7%. So I think that the new philosophy on weight loss is much more easy for people to swallow, and hopefully will be more successful with
we'll
people
get
that
them
way.
to say, ding, I hit that goal, right?
There
to
you
give
go.
them
Exactly.
that positive reinforcement.
Self-efficacy again.
Self-efficacy, absolutely. Alrighty, so can you close us off with a favorite quote?
A favorite quote?
Yes.
Yes. My favorite quote is, if exercise could be put into a medicine, if exercise could be put into a pill, it would be the most prescribed should try to memorize this. It's in here. If exercise could be put into a pill, it would be the most prescribed medicine in the country.
I love that.
There we go.
I love that. Lisa,
No side effects.
Yeah, I feel like we could just talk on and on. There's just so many things that you triggered in my brain. You're such a wealth of knowledge, and your passion just overflows. And certainly this is a huge part of our population, and it's going to be a huge problem. And I just love that there's people like you out there that really have it as their mission in life to help us to live long and strong and great lives until that day when we're all called home.
You know, we all want to play with those grandchildren and watch them graduate and hit those milestones in their lives.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, thank you. It's
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure having you. And we will probably have her back. So we'll get all those resources for you. And all of you, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a
Thank you
been
so
a delight.
much.